Okay, so today we're going to do a quick revision on our text responses that we've been working on for Hunt for the Wilderpeople. So just a reminder, our goals for tomorrow are to work on strong topic sentences and including analysis words into our essay writing. So just a quick recap for our introduction. As we're moving into Year 9, we want to start with a hook. Now, if you don't feel that you're comfortable doing a hook tomorrow, that's fine. Just go on to making sure the key elements of the introduction are there. In your opening sentences, what you really need to do, and you can generally do these 3 things in the one sentence, is introduce us to the film. That includes having the title of the film, which must be written in speech marks to recognise that that is the title of the film. And then we must be introduced to who the director of the film is. Remember, the very first time we introduce the director of the film, we use their first name, Taika Waititi, and then from there on in, we only use the last name, Waititi, throughout the body of the essay. A brief summary of what the film is about. Remember, this summary only goes for about a sentence, maybe 2 sentences. It must be in relation to the topic. So don't tell me everything you know about the film. I just want to know a brief summary of the storyline in relation to what the topic is asking us to do. Now, remember, we call this the C word. This is one of the most important things that we have in our introduction. It's the contention, and that is pretty much your direct response to the essay prompt. So, does the director use film techniques and symbols to show the growth? Are you trying to tell me that Ricky Baker does grow through the course of this movie? You must address that. It is one very simple sentence. The last thing we do is signpost the 3 arguments that you're going to use to justify your contention. So the contention might be that as the film goes on, Ricky Baker matures, and we see this, and YTT uses symbolism and film techniques to display this to the audience. Then you're going to signpost pretty much, if you're talking about his maturity, what he's like at the beginning, what he's like at the middle, and what he's like at the end. So let's see this in practice. So, Hunt for the Wilderpeople, a film directed by Taika Waititi in 2016, is about a little boy named Ricky who is adopted by 2 people named Bella and Heck. During the film, Ricky is forced to mature from a troublemaker into a respectful young man running away into the bush. This section here does 3 things. Okay? The first thing is it recognises the title of the film. And we know who the director of the film is. The rest of this is the summary of the film. A really brief summary of the film. Okay, gives me a bit of the storyline, gives me a bit of context about what happens in this movie. The next part. YTT uses film techniques and symbolism to display to the audience that Ricky Baker has matured throughout the film. Film techniques and symbolism. We know this is our big C. That is the contention. Direct response to the prompt. The film demonstrates Ricky being immature initially. Our key word here being initially. We know initially means at the start. So we know this is the first argument that this individual's making. When it shows him breaking the law and running away. His dog Tupac plays a big role in starting to soften Ricky up and let him show more emotions. Okay, so that's their first argument there. First argument. Oops. During the middle of the film, we can see once again we're progressing. This is language of progression, middle of the film, which means we're moving on to the second argument. Ricky attempts to survive out in the bush by himself. Cutaways demonstrate his inability to survive, so we know that they're going to talk about how he starts to mature, and this is the film technique they're going to discuss. More cutaways and camera angles show the audience Ricky learning and becoming more experienced in the bush. Towards the conclusion, we know conclusion means at the end of the film, Ricky displays emotion towards Heck and chooses new clothes to wear, demonstrating his maturity. So new clothes, we know, means the symbol there. These points clearly demonstrate Ricky's evolution from a troublemaker to a young man. Very clear, very succinct, follows the structure quite well. Okay, just a reminder about our body paragraphs. Now, the one major thing that we're working on here is topic sentences. That is how we start off our body paragraph. What you need to ensure is two things. That one, you're actually presenting an argument, not retelling the story, not providing an explanation of symbolism. Just present me with a very clear argument which actually addresses all the highlighted elements of the prompt. For us, the highlighted elements of the prompt for the sample topic we looked at was film technique, symbolism, and growth. So just as long as you're conquering those two things and it's short and concise. Then, before we can give anyone evidence, we need to provide an elaboration which provides us with context to the evidence. We can't go from the topic sentence straight into a quote. We need something that leads into the quote. Then we need to provide evidence for your argument. This is in the form of quotations, and we want to have at least two quotes. Maybe you can split it up because it is asking for film techniques and symbolism. You could have one quote plus one piece of evidence about film techniques or symbolism, so describing that, if that's a water bottle or a cutaway or a montage, for instance. Then after our evidence, this is one big thing we also need to work on, is we can't just provide evidence, we need to explain the significance of this evidence and how it builds the author's intention. So that's pretty much explaining to us that YTT uses this to illustrate this, to show us the deeper meaning. That's what you need to explain, the deeper meaning here. And then our final sentence will link back to the contention. Now remember, your E's don't necessarily have to be structured in that one way. You can move them around as long as they make sense. Sometimes you'll find that you explain it a lot more and then you'll provide your evidence, and that's completely fine. So let's have a look at recognizing the different sections of this body paragraph. YTT cleverly depicts Ricky as he goes through changes in his attitude by the use of the hot water bottle and tracking cutaway shots to analyse his survival. Okay, the fact that we're saying analyse his survival shows us this is looking at his growth here and how he's changing. And we know that the symbols and the film techniques are going to be discussed. Therefore, it responds directly to the prompt. When Ricky first journeys into... Sorry, that was our topic sentence. When Ricky first journeys into the bush alone to run away from civilization, he is oblivious on how to survive. Right here is giving us context to our evidence. Then we go straight into the evidence, as demonstrated when he says, "Stuff this, Tupac, we're going home." That's the quote. We cannot leave it there. What does that prove to us? You need to explain that. YTT's use of cutaways, once again, another piece of evidence, especially in this scene, really demonstrates how lost Ricky is without the guidance of others, as he is repeatedly circles the same area of the bush. This part here, without how lost Ricky is without the guidance of others, is really explaining how Ricky feels and proves to us that he was actually oblivious. This is what we need, a few sentences to explain why YTT uses the film technique cutaways to show us what do we perceive from this. This is what I need to know. Further, so here, this word here, further, indicates to us that we're developing this argument. Remember, I said I wanted 2 cycles of the E's. This is our second cycle. YTT depicts how Ricky has acted in the past when he doesn't know what to do, but learning from his deceased foster mother Bella, uses her guidance to survive. Once again, this is illustrated. leading into the evidence. So here we've done our context again and a bit of explanation. And, sorry. This is illustrated when he tries to heat the hot water bottle but fails. This, heating the hot water bottle and failing, is our second piece of evidence here. Ricky really needed the guidance of Heck, such as when Heck finds him as he looks relieved but tried to cover it up when Heck asks him, "Are you lost?" where Ricky responds with "no," which is him trying to cover up that he's actually really vulnerable underneath. This is beautiful. This is our explanation of what is being lost there, okay? The fact that you can acknowledge that he's covering up what's actually happening, that he feels vulnerable, is explaining the significance of that evidence. That's what I need to see. The portrayal of Ricky Baker is depicted as a clueless young boy who is trying to develop by the guidance of others, which is cleverly captured by YTT through the use of hot water bottle and camera angles. And that is our linking sentence. Pretty much this body paragraph. Linking. Now, moving on to our conclusion. Pretty much, I've got a sample conclusion here, and what's in the bold is the structural elements of our conclusion. So we reaffirm what would be our contention. We don't repeat it in the same words, but we're reaffirming this main idea. So YTT has effectively chosen to utilize film conventions, techniques and symbolism to elucidate Ricky Baker's transformation within Hunt for the Wilderpeople. It's still telling me that Ricky Baker changes over the course of the movie through film techniques and symbolism. Now, our review is going back over what our three main arguments were. This was noticed through the inclusion of the hot water bottle as a symbol, the use of montages to emphasize Ricky's ability in the bush, and the lyricism selected to accentuate mood and emotion. Okay, so we can see that the hot water bottle would have been argument 1, the montages would have been argument 2, and the lyricism is near the end. And then we finish off with our final statement. That is the overall learning of the film. So, YTT has created a film to illustrate sometimes, in order to find your true home, you must be willing to accept and love those around you, which is something that we learn from the film in Ricky's journey of maturity.